OpenAI will amend its deal with the DoD to prevent mass surveillance in the U.S. The Supreme Court does not care if you want to copyright your AI-generated art. And Starlink's next-gen satellite network could provide 150 megabytes per second speeds by the end of next year. It's Tuesday, March 3rd, and here's a quick look at tech in the news this morning from Engadget. OpenAI's Sam Altman said the company will amend its deal with the Defense Department to explicitly prohibit the use of its AI system on mass surveillance against Americans. Altman has published an internal memo previously sent to employees on X, telling them that the company will tweak the agreement to add language to make that point especially clear. Specifically, it says, consistent with applicable laws, including the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution, the AI system shall not be intentionally used for domestic surveillance of U.S. persons and nationals. For the avoidance of doubt, the department understands this limitation to prohibit deliberate tracking, surveillance, or monitoring of U.S. persons or nationals, including through the procurement or use of commercially acquired personal or identifiable information. Altman has also claimed in the memo that the agency affirmed that its services will not be used by its intelligence agencies, including the NSA, without a modification to their contract. He added that if he received what he believed was an unconstitutional order, he would rather go to jail than follow it. In addition, the OpenAI CEO has admitted in the memo that the company should not have rushed to get the deal out on Friday, the 27th, since the issues were super complex and demand clear communication. Altman explained that the company was trying to de-escalate things and avoid a much worse outcome, but it looked opportunistic in the end. If you'll recall, OpenAI announced the partnership shortly after President Trump ordered all U.S. government agencies to stop using Claude and any other Anthropic services. To note, Anthropic started working with the U.S. government in 2024. The Defense Department and Secretary Pete Hegseth had been pressuring Anthropic to remove its AI's guardrails so that it can be used for all quote-unquote lawful purposes. Those include mass surveillance and the development of fully autonomous weapons. Anthropic refused to bow down to Hegseth's demands, and in a statement said that no amount of intimidation or punishment will change its position on mass domestic surveillance or fully autonomous weapons. As AI-generated artwork becomes more commonplace, it still will not be able to be copyrighted. That's according to U.S. courts. On Monday, the U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear a case about whether an artwork generated with the help of AI can be copyrighted. The refusal means that a lower court's decision to reject the copyright request will stand. The case dates back to 2018 when Stephen Thaler applied for a copyright of an artwork called A Recent Entrance to Paradise. Unlike using ChatGPT or Midjourney, Thaler, a computer scientist, created an AI system that generated the artwork in question. However, the U.S. Copyright Office rejected his application in 2022 on the grounds that it wasn't made by a human author. Thaler sought appeals at higher courts, but ultimately had to escalate the case all the way to the Supreme Court after both a federal judge in Washington and the U.S. Court of Appeals ruled against him. With a refusal from the highest court in the land, it is unlikely that Thaler's case can continue. The U.S. Supreme Court could always hear a related case in the future, but Thaler's lawyers said even if it later overturns the Copyright Office's test in another case, it will be too late, adding that the decision will have negatively impacted the creative industry during critically important years. It is worth noting that Thaler also filed applications to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office for AI-generated inventions, which were rejected for similar reasons. Starlink is getting ready to launch its second generation of satellites, and it is expected to match the speeds of a traditional terrestrial network. During a keynote at Mobile World Congress, Starlink execs detailed the roadmap for the company's upgrade towards the next generation of satellites called V2. Michael Nichols, SpaceX's senior vice president of Starlink engineering, said the goal of Starlink Mobile is to provide a terrestrial-like connectivity when you're connected to the satellite system. In the right conditions, it should look and feel like you're connected to a high-performing 5G terrestrial network. Nichols detailed that the V2 satellite constellation could offer download speeds up to 150 megabytes per second in ideal conditions, comparing it to a broadband experience. According to Starlink, next-gen satellites will offer 100 times the data density of its predecessors, which should help users with faster streaming and browsing, as well as more reliable voice calls. Notably, Nichols added that the V2 satellite constellation would offer better coverage to Earth's polar regions, which are known to have unreliable coverage with traditional networks. Nichols said that SpaceX is planning to send out more than 50 V2 satellites on each SpaceX launch starting in mid-2027, with a goal of building out a full constellation in 6 months. Outside its MWC presser, Starlink also announced a partnership with German telecommunications company Deutsche Telekom. The partnership would help Deutsche Telekom address internet coverage gaps in Europe using Starlink's constellation starting in 2028. Thanks for listening. There's more tech news at Engadget.com. This episode featured journalism from Mariella Moon and Jackson Chen, and it was voiced and produced from the sound studios of Spoken Layer. Enjoy your day, and I'll be back tomorrow with more tech news from Engadget.